Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Begin with a moment of silent prayer and then the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tell Brian grab some picture.
Push in, Brian. Sorry. Roll call. Supervisor Gonring is excused. Supervisor Berg is absent.
He will be here in 15 minutes.
If you're here in 15 minutes, okay. He will be here in 15 minutes. The affidavit of posting. This is a meeting of the Washington County Board of Supervisors. Prior to this meeting, public notice is given by posting a copy of the agenda in the office of the county clerk and emailing the agenda to the West Bend Daily News, which is the official newspaper. In addition, the agenda was emailed to CNI newspapers, Express News, Kewaskum Statesman, Milwaukee Journal, WIBD, WMBZ Radio, and WTKN Radio. Above action is in conformity with the state of Wisconsin open meeting law. We will begin with the consent agenda as Mr. Vollmer is not here. If there's no objection, we can move that to the consent agenda. Motion by Supervisor Kelling, second by Supervisor Sarsi. We need to vote on it? No. Okay. Okay. Entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. Supervisor Schleif, Supervisor Kist. Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Presentation of petitions. Petition 1, Planning and Parks Department, rezoning and shoreline. We're going to do it first. Okay.
I'm reading the petition first.
Reading of the petition.
Pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 59.69, 59.692, and 87.30, the undersigned hereby petitions the County Board of Supervisors of Washington County to change the shoreline wetland floodplain zoning ordinance map of Washington County designated as Chapter 23 of the Washington County Code as follows. To amend the shoreline wetland floodplain zoning maps of Washington County established and maintained pursuant to sections 23.03, 23.12, 23.15, and 23.23 of the Washington County Code by changing from a shoreline wetland zoning district to revised shoreline wetland zoning district. The property is located in part of the southeast quarter of the southeast quarter, section 15, township 10 north, range 19 east, town of Polk, more particularly described on the attached exhibit.
Okay. Move on to the report. Okay.
Good evening. Good evening. Was this on? Thanks.
Yep.
Good evening. Just wanted to point out to the map, you can see that right here, this is the wetland area in question. This is the existing building, and the proposed fill is roughly 550 square feet of fill into the wetland area here for the proposed drive. So the request to rezone and the permit for wetland filling does meet all of the required criteria in the ordinance, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Could you dim the lights so you can see it more clearly?
The highs. Well,
I don't know where to open up.
yeah.
Supervisor Mahalik.
Thank you. There was no comment in the petition as to why they're petitioning, at least I didn't see it. Can I just know what, okay, they're extending the drive, is there, or putting in there, what?
Yeah,
what's
so
the
they are
real
putting in a
purpose?
new proposed building expansion right here on the property. And this right here is kind of a smaller existing drive, but they want it to be wider so they can get semis through there. This is Highway 60, and they're not permitted access to this side of the property from the highway. So in order to get the trucks of the size that they want for their facility through here, they need to widen the driveway and add fill here to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Schleif?
Also, to help, it should be pointed out that they're adding wetlands more than what they're taking away in a different part of the site, correct?
They are accounting for the stormwater, yes.
Supervisor Kelly?
Is this just like a culvert?
Yes. Creek, it's a creek.
Okay, seeing there's no questions, we can move J, ordinance number 7, shoreline wetland floodplain zoning maps, which would be pertinent to this report. If there's no objections, we can vote on that now. The motion to approve. Supervisor Bullowa, Supervisor Killing. All in favor, any further questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're voting electronically?
Yeah.
Okay, vote electronically, sorry.
What are we voting on?
Ordinance.
Ordinance 7, the shoreline, wetland, and floodplain zoning map that we just discussed.
Yeah, it revises the shoreline zoning district boundary lines on the county's official map.
Are we clear? Okay. Supervisor Hardwick? Motion passes. Moving on to 2018 Resolution 42, I'll entertain a motion to postpone this to next month's meeting.
So moved.
Who's that?
Supervisor Mahalik, Supervisor Hartwig. We'll vote on that electronically also. Okay. Supervisor Krebs.
Can I ask what the purpose of postponing this is for? Because in the report, it talks about October 1st is the deadline from the state,
Oh,
which we're already past.
So HUD runs the CDBG program, which is administered by the Department of Administration. HUD has kicked the deadline back to November 1st. And so we actually won't see their approval on the proposal until then. And executive committee's desire was to have that approval in place first and then to take action based on what exactly it is that HUD approves. So we haven't gotten that approval, which means we don't know exactly what the proposal looks like, and until we know that, we're basically would have been asking you to vote on a proposal rather than something concrete.
Okay.
Okay, having a motion and second, we'll vote on this electronically. Motion passes and goes to next month. Going to move up, if there's no objections. UW Extension is standing by, waiting patiently, and I'd like to do the resolution commemorating the 100th anniversary of University of Wisconsin Extension in Washington County. Supervisor Kist, Supervisor Bossert. We do the electronic on this one too?
You want to read it?
Read it first. Yep.
There's a frame over there.
Resolution commemorating the 100th anniversary of University of Wisconsin Extension, Washington County. Whereas G.A. Blank was appointed Washington County's first extension agent in 1918, and whereas 2018 marks the 100th anniversary of this unique educational partnership between Washington County and the University of Wisconsin system, whereas this partnership, as pioneered in Wisconsin, embodies the true meaning of the Wisconsin idea that the resources and knowledge of the university shall be extended to the people of the state wherever they live and work. And whereas the 100th anniversary of Mr. Blank's appointment commemorates the contributions of all UW Extension educators that have worked in Washington County and have contributed to the growth and development of the county and the well-being of its citizens. And whereas UW Extension's purpose is to teach, learn, lead, and serve, connecting the people with the University of Wisconsin and engaging them in transforming lives and communities. And whereas the vitality of today's UW Extension program can be credited to the men and women of vision who accepted the challenge in 1918 to create the UW Extension Washington County. And whereas Washington County has been a valued collaborative partner in UW Extension program since 1918, now therefore be it resolved by the Washington County Board of Supervisors that the board hereby commends UW Extension Washington County's local extension educators and staff for their cooperation and support, which allows people of Washington County to apply the research and knowledge of the University of Wisconsin in their lives, homes, farms, schools, communities, organizations, and businesses.
I'd like to thank all you guys, first 100 years and for the next 100 years. People, this is a group we need to really advocate for. This is UW. This is the University Without Walls. These are the people that reach the people that really need to have the university come to them. So I advocate for them whenever I can, and I would appreciate anybody else to advocate for them too. So congratulations, you guys. Thank you.
Really quick picture?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, are you gonna do
Yeah.
a vote on
Yes.
this?
You gotta vote on the resolution? Okay. Have to vote on the resolution? We need a,
You did have a first and second.
okay. And can we vote electronically or by eye?
Electronic.
Electronically, please. Oh, yeah, right before you do closed session, yeah. Okay, I'd like to move up, ordinance, address 2018 ordinance 6, Washington County Staffing Plan, Human Services Department, and Washington County Classification Compensation Plan. There's no, objections, we'll move that up and take care of that now. I'll entertain a motion.
Is Ron Vollmer waiting?
No, he's not here.
Okay, that's fine.
No, he's not here.
Okay.
Supervisor Dice, and a second. Supervisor Brandt, sorry. Okay. You guys want to speak to that?
We have Julie and Matt here if you have any questions. I think the report speaks for itself.
Okay. There is an amendment to this, to the report though? There's an amendment to the, did you want to speak to the amendment? Sure.
So the department will be asking for an amendment to this particular ordinance. You'll see that family aid position was to and strikes it out, so there'd be none remaining. According to Director Driscoll, that should indicate that there is one part-time position there. So the amendment would be that instead of striking out two, it only strikes out one.
Okay, entertain a motion for the amendment. Supervisor Kist, Supervisor Sorcy, Supervisor Bossert.
I just want to verify that amendment has no fiscal impact to it, correct?
No additional. No additional impact beyond what's already reported.
It's basically clean-up language to get it correct. Supervisor Krebs?
Can you just clarify for me again, how many positions in the end will there be? You lost me on that. For the family aid position.
It's on, it's on.
It is on?
Yes, it is.
It just isn't very loud.
I just need to talk louder? Okay, so in the end, we will have 2.5 family aid positions. We currently have 1.5, and the combination of, we currently have 1 full-time and 2 part-time. And so the combination of another part-time social worker and a part-time family aid creates a full-time. She will have 2 full-time and 1 part-time.
But the ordinance I'm looking at says 2, not 2.5.
It would be, the ordinance, the amendment would be the 2, and then add 1 part-time, meaning that 2.5
Okay, after that.
after the amendment, yep.
My second question to that is, are all those, the 2.5 positions, are those still subject to line 33, which is note 14, that they all receive 50% matching funding for those positions?
That is correct. We apply 50% of our state county contract for those positions.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Merton?
Thank you, but the social worker position is eliminated, the part-time.
Yeah, so in consolidating a part-time social worker position and a part-time family aid to create a full-time position, we eliminated the 2 part-time positions.
Okay, follow up on that, but the 14 is after the social worker. So the social worker, to me, would read the position must receive at least 50% state or federal funding, but there isn't there, so why is that notation in there? Or is that for the family aid?
It's also under the family aid,
Up to the family aid?
yep.
Okay, and, okay, I guess that's, okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, we'll vote first on the amendment. Vote electronically, please. Amendment passes 24-0. Now we'll vote, there's no further questions, we'll vote on the ordinance
Yes, it is.
as amended. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, we'll vote electronically. Ordinance passes. If there's no objections, like to move the closed session up to now. If there's no objections, entertain a motion to go into closed session. Supervisor McCune, Supervisor Hartwig, second. Hartwig, second. Okay, we'll do a roll call by electronic. Rock.
Peter. And Mr. Brandon.
There you go, all right. Okay, we're hereby in closed session. Back in session. Okay. Wait, somebody could back up. I will entertain a motion by
I would like to move that we go ahead with the letter that was discussed in closed session and ask for a vote, hopefully for unanimous passage.
Second by Supervisor Brandt. We'll vote on this electronically, or you have to read it again, please.
This evening, the Washington County Board of Supervisors convened in closed session to review the circumstances surrounding the resignation of former District 11 Supervisor William G. Blanchard. After reviewing this matter, it is our conclusion that Mr. Blanchard's resignation was made freely, voluntarily, and knowingly after consultation with his own legal counsel and was not the product of intimidation, harassment, or threats of any kind or nature. We are satisfied that the procedures set forth in Washington County Code Section 4.31 have been followed with regard to the particular circumstances involving Mr. Blanchard. Therefore, this board endorses the recommendation of Washington County Attorney Bradley Stern, Chairperson Donald Creekball, County Administrator Josh Showman, and the opinion of the Washington County Ethics Board dated September 28, 2018, that advised Mr. Blanchard to resign.
Supervisor Carr.
Yeah, I got from Attorney Stern the Ethics Board letter, and what it talks about in here is the Ethics Board has determined that there is a conflict of interest for William G. Blanchard to remain a member of the Washington County Board of Supervisors. I think that's something that, I hate to keep suggesting changes to things, but I'm concerned about a public relations concept here. The fact is that if there's an ethics board judgment against someone, I think in the minds of the layperson, they immediately think that the person did something unethical. In this case, it's not really so much a question of unethical as there is a conflict of interest, as stated by the ethics board letter. I think if we put in the letter that we find that the ethics board found that he had a conflict of interest, and therefore that's why the resignation was suggested, that would clear the air in this opinion, in my opinion anyway.
Are you making a motion to amend? Are you making a motion to amend?
I would move that we amend the letter to state that he has a conflict of interest, that he didn't have an ethics violation so much as a conflict of interest, and that's what the conclusion of the board was. That's what it says right here.
That is an accurate statement, Supervisor Carr. I would only indicate to this board this evening that by endorsing the recommendation of the Ethics Board, which is what you have there in front of you, you're looking at, which is now a public record, it does include that language. So by endorsing that letter, if you will, it's sort of, I think it's there, but I just throw that out there at you to consider.
Mr. Chairman, I would.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend this as an up or down vote because of the fact that we had a closed session and we are really not in a position where we can discuss this further. I would ask for Attorney Stern to give us our opinion on that. I mean, we're treading on thin ice here if we're going to start opening this up after spending an hour in closed session going over this and then suddenly opening up again and bringing in things that we might actually be very sorry that we're bringing into this. Otherwise, why do we have a closed session? So I didn't figure we'd be going into further discussion on this. That wasn't my, again, would ask for the attorneys, the county attorney's opinion on that.
Well, certainly what was discussed in closed session is confidential in nature and cannot be disclosed in open session. And so therefore there can really be no discussion on that particular topic any longer.
Thank you.
Supervisor Martin?
I think when she read it, she said opinion, and I believe it was a recommendation.
Correct.
So we should be sure that the word is recommendation, not opinion.
It says recommendation regarding the Washington County Attorney Bradley Stern, and then Don and Josh. And then it also says, and the opinion of the Washington County Ethics Board. So we didn't change that before we
And
left it as.
opinion. It's not an opinion of the ethics board, it's a recommendation, correct, Brad?
It was their recommendation. I think the letter is couched to indicate it was, you're endorsing the opinion as it was written, if you will, which includes, of course, the recommendation and, of course, the indication that it wasn't due to misconduct, but conflicts of interest that interfered with his ability to serve.
Okay, not seeing a second to the proposed amendment. Seeing no second, the amendment fails. We'll vote electronically on the letter.
The letter as read.
As read. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving to C, 2018 Resolution 43, Advisory Resolution in support of county or regional-based property tax assessments. Josh, you want to?
We need a motion.
I'm sorry, motion to consider. Supervisor Schleif, Supervisor Sorcy.
I will simply point out that there was an amendment made by executive committee to this resolution. This is a resolution that has been endorsed in the past by the county board. The amendment was to clarify that manufacturing assessment should stay at the state in every scenario. This is a live wire issue, as it has been discussed as recently as this week in the committee that is considering the dark store legislation, or that which is commonly referred to as dark store legislation. So what we're trying to do is put the county in a position to have a seat at the table for the dialogue and continue to move forward on a recommendation from county board to pass.
Supervisor Burton.
Is this a recommendation for countywide assessment?
Yes.
And what municipalities have requested this?
I think you'll see if you read through the resolution that it spells out that we would be seeking to do so in consultation with the municipalities.
And why would we be putting a resolution forth and then after the fact going to the municipalities and seeing whether this is something that they really want to do? Class 1 cities, as I understand, are exempt. Is West Bend a Class 1 city?
West Bend is not a Class 1 city. There is no real proposal out there at this point in time. Again, it's a matter of putting the county in a position to be able to have a seat at the table and negotiate not only this, but the entirety of the study committee that's working right now.
Which study committee?
The study committee that's commonly referred to as the Dark Store Study Committee, but in reality, it's much broader than that. It's about property tax assessments in general. And they have introduced an element of this type of a discussion into their discussions now. The county wants to be able to make sure that our voice is heard relative to countywide assessing. There have been discussions about passing manufacturing assessing onto counties, passing commercial assessing onto counties. We're trying to put ourselves in a situation where we can steer the discussion and not let it steer us, just like we talked about back in 2015.
I just want to say, I cannot support this because of countywide assessment. If anyone has ever gone to the Board of Review and tried to analyze why their assessment is whatever it is, or if it's out of line, it's a difficult enough process going to the local rather than to go to the county. And I don't see what benefit there is except more expense for the county. So I'm voting against it.
Thank you. Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To clarify a couple issues. First, the Legislative Council Study Committee, or the Dark Store Study Committee as it's referred to, that's at the state level.
Correct.
This resolution has nothing to do with the dark store legislation in general, though. This is strictly towards just who administers the assessments.
Yes, by virtue of the study committee, as you spelled it out, meeting, there's a negotiation process for how dark store legislation is going to come out. they've opened it up beyond dark store into a much broader discussion.
They're talking assessments.
They're talking assessments in general, so they've opened the door way past dark store Walgreens and into assessments in general. When we heard through the rumor mill that they were talking about shifting commercial and manufacturing to counties, that's when we decided it was worthwhile for us to try to get in the driver's seat. And frankly, that was the motive for the executive committee to say, we don't want manufacturing at all.
So by endorsing this, though, it's fair to say we are still not, this resolution is not endorsing the dark store theory.
Correct.
legislation, because that's been done in a different
That is correct.
resolution already. Also, the other part to clarify, by endorsing this resolution today is not voting, not an endorsement of us actually doing the assessments. That's a debate or discussion for this board or a future board to have.
Correct.
Once it would be legally possible for us to do that.
Correct.
This would be just for the option for us to do it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Mahalik.
I appreciate the Supervisor Krebs' questions. I actually went and testified in Madison as regards to the dark store legislation, had a rather animated conversation with the folks there on the board. And please know, and maybe County Administrator Showman can get me on the exact numbers, but if you look at how many places in the state of Wisconsin can assess, or actually are responsible for assessments, it's ridiculous. We are by far and away, I mean, of the 50 states, we are number one by hundreds of places that do assessments. Okay, it's from every city, town, village, hamlet. It's, in fact, I think we beat the state of New York by between 300 and 400, the number of places that actually do assessments. It is absolutely incredible. Of course, the inefficiencies that can work in when you have something along that line. And the reason that we're suffering the dark store problem with having the Walgreens and the Walmarts and the Meijers and all the other folks that are coming at us and decimating our positions when it comes to paying their fair share. And I went through all those numbers, at least in a local thing in Hartford, and I know West Bend has suffered even more so than we have. We really think the best way that we can do it is to look at taking and going from hundreds and hundreds of these to narrow it down, because what we do is we take away the argument of the different companies that are coming up and saying, well, you're not assessing us fairly because look, they're able to point to hundreds of different locations depending on how many locations they have in the state, and there's such a hodgepodge, and they can use that against us. And the way that we're going to get any type of legislation so this is corrected is to look at the possibility of tightening up our system of assessing property. Now, we already do it in manufacturing. That's a state thing right now.
That's correct.
Okay, and I don't know that will change. Actually, if the state wants to keep that part of it, that would be fine. But when it comes to the other parts, there are arguments, as I think Supervisor Merton points out, both ways. You can lose some of the convenience. But the problem that you run into is you also open up a tremendous litigious door that a lot of these companies that have the want to lower their tax burden, if you will, but I think unfairly, especially when you look at the numbers and the type of services they use versus what some of the other individuals do in their homes, because that burden is going to fall on the individual homeowners, because that's where the money comes from if you're not getting it from commercial or industrial. Industrial's already out of our hands, it's in the state, but when it comes to the commercial, then I would be for moving this forward, or at least, like Supervisor Krebs mentioned, at least keeping that door open, having the option open so we can enter into discussions with municipalities. For one, obviously I can't speak for the city council of the city of Hartford, but please know that the mayor is certainly behind looking at this very seriously to make sure that we can have commercial properties pay their fair share. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you. Just to clear it up again though, Tim, this is, our Supervisor Mahalik, this is not going to solve your paying the fair share problem of dark store legislation. This is not legislation to fix that. This is just who is administering the assessment.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, we have motion and second, and we'll vote on this electronically. Motion passes. 2018 Resolution 45 Grant Application Youth Justice Innovation. Motion? Motion Supervisor Bossert. Second Supervisor Schleif. Any discussion? An explanation on this one? Pretty straightforward. Seeing no discussion, we'll vote on this electronically. Oh,
No, Supervisor Gallitz and Supervisor Sorcy are, their buttons are off. They're not attending right now.
okay. Oh, okay,
Okay, now yours is.
okay. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on this electronically.
Yeah.
Motion passes. 2018 Resolution 46 Tax Deed Sale to Erica Heritage. We have a motion. Supervisor Mahalik. Second. Supervisor Merton. Any discussion? All in favor? Vote electronically. Motion passes. 2018 Resolution 47, Tax Deed Sale to Matthew Horn. Supervisor Gallitz, your second. Supervisor Hartwick. Any discussion? Vote on this electronically. Supervisor Bertram. There we go. Motion passes. 2018 Resolution 48, Tax Deed Sale to Steve Helt. A motion. Supervisor Basso. Supervisor Smichek. Any discussion? Vote electronically. Okay, motion passes with Supervisor Below abstaining. Next meeting date, Wednesday, November 14th, 2018, 6 o'clock p.m. Entertain the motion to adjourn. Supervisor Krebs, Supervisor Bertram, second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Everybody adjourned. Thank you, everybody.